Okay.
We're in Phu Loc. This is the site where we lost the loved ones who are here. It was 50 years ago that I had the honor of coming to this mortar pit and putting 5 people, 2 of them who I knew very well, into body bags, and it was truly an honor for me to do that. We are here to honor their death. We are here because in about 2012, I was diagnosed with cancer caused by Agent Orange. And I went through a period of time where I was sorry, I felt sorry for myself, I had anger, and then I remembered, as I did every day, these 5 and also the 6th, Jim Galati, who suffered a mortal wound on the first attack at 2 o'clock. This was the attack at 8 o'clock. I witnessed it. Maybe 50 yards, 50 meters, I don't know. But I saw the rounds start coming in for these guys, and I saw them, and they had to know that those rounds are coming in, and they didn't bail. They just kept on loading because it was their job to defend our camp. They took 2 direct hits, and out of the 6, 5 were killed. Going back to 2012, as I said, I felt sorry, I was angered, and then all of a sudden I realized that I had about 50 years of a life that they never had. And so I went on a mission, and I contacted the next of kin. We have a sister, we've got 2 brothers, and we have a daughter. And they've made this journey all the way to here. And they're going to tell you and give some words for thought of what this day, and this was 50 years ago to the minute, that these 5 gave their life for their country. So the first person I'll just randomly pick, I'll pick Ken. And Ken, go ahead.
First of all, Rick, I want to thank you for all you've done. JR was my only brother. He was 7 years older than I was. I remember when he came here, he always told me he was coming back. I'm so proud of him.
And by the way, he was called JR. We all knew him as Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I knew that you were telling the truth when you said JR. That and the beach house.
All right.
And softball. And golf. Those were loves of his life. And I'm thankful for the life that I have. I have a son, Troy, and a daughter, Jody. And my son and daughter both were very well with the uncle they never knew. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Laura.
Yes, I am the daughter of John Foreman Peak, Builder Class 3 in the United States Navy. And Dad volunteered. He and Mom, he did it because we needed the money. When you have 3 small children and job opportunities are limited, you do what you have to do.
So just tell, it was, you were 6 at the time?
I was almost 5.
5?
And the day they told us, my mom was at work, and we were living with our aunt and uncle, because we were getting ready to move to California, because Dad was a couple months away from being done. And so we were all at home, and we saw this car pull up, and two guys in white uniforms got out, came to the door, and I couldn't figure out why my aunt was afraid to answer the door. So she answered the door and basically told them that, you know, Linda wasn't home, that's my mom. And I remember we kept looking out the window. And my cousin and I, we kept telling each other that Daddy would be home soon. And when my mom got home, I remember she came in and she was so scared. And she told my aunt, please don't answer that door. Please don't answer that door. And when they came in, and I will never ever forget it, even though I was so little, I stood there and looked at my mom and said, Mrs. Peak, we regret to inform you that John F. Peak has been killed in action. And after that, of course, nothing was the same. And I miss him every single day.
Laura?
He never got to walk me down the aisle or see his grandchildren.
I'm sorry, but remember you told me about the one memory you have of your
yeah.
dad?
Before he left, and for a long time afterwards, I kept having these memories of playing this game with my dad. And my mom, I went to my mom as a teenager and said, you know, I don't know if I'm making this up or if it's true. And I told her about it. I said I would stand on the stairs and I would jump into Daddy's arms. And she looked at me and got that shocked look on her face. She goes, how can you remember that? I said, so it's true? She goes, yeah, it's a game you and your dad used to play all the time. You'd stand on the stairs and jump in his arms. And everybody, I mean, my grandparents loved my dad. My maternal grandparents helped raise us. And my grandmother loved to talk about my dad. Loved him so much, loved him like a son. And I think it destroyed her almost as much as the rest of us when he was killed.
Anything else, Laura?
My brothers were unable to be here. His son Randy has MS and is unable to travel, but he's very grateful that we found Rick and that we have connected. Rick has told us so much about our dad that we did not know, and just like I always knew, and like my grandmother would tell me and my mom, he was a stand-up guy, as they would say. And Rick told us that my dad would also tell him, Rick, you're better than this. You're better than being construction and running bulldozers. And I'm so happy to see that you have been able to do such great things with your life. Daddy would be so proud of you too. He really would.
Well, thank you. All right. Juanita, all right. This is Alan's sister. And go ahead.
I don't know what to say. Most countries say we're happy to look at kid, we're serious kid, great athlete at school, great brother, son. He cared for other people. He had his life pretty well planned, but when he got out of the service, he had gone to trade tech for a couple of years. He had his carpenter, journeyman or whatever it is, and they knew when he came out he'd be a full-fledged carpenter and was going to start his own business. Of course, that never happened, but I want to thank Rick for taking the time, and I know a lot of hours spent tracking us down. His death changed everybody in our family, especially my mother, and it was hard to see her go through what she did. But he wanted to serve his country, and he done honorably.
Okay, thank you, Juanita. All right, the last one will be John. He's the brother of Mark, and we had a special gift that was delivered to us while we were all at dinner the other night. And John brought a letter that Ken's mom wrote, am I right? And to John's mom shortly after the battle. And John wants to say a couple of words, and he wants to read the letter. And so John, it's all yours.
Thank you. Well, it's actually a couple of gifts. That's not quite that letter.
Yeah.
The letter I have is from the DeShirleys, but the letter that my mother had written to all your families. As it happens, then we got these letters back. So glad we could provide that letter to you. And so yeah, I'm the youngest brother of Mark. I was 7 at the time. I remember riding my bicycle back from school and 7 years old, and my mom telling me the news, kind of like yesterday. So it's just, it's an amazing thing to be here, for sure, absolutely. Mark was due to be married in June, and so all that was very, very hard to let it in so soon. But one thing I do want to read, this is a little bit long, because the letter's a little bit long, but I think you'll all hang on every word. But just because the DeShirleys couldn't be here, and I know George, I guess the camp was named after him, after this happened. And I just thought, and I just found these letters at the last, you know, about a year. And I actually read these in Seoul, Korea, on my layover. And this letter from Margie DeShirley to my mom, I just think is so reflective of the strength of the families and of the pain that families go through.
These are mothers writing other mothers.
Correct.
And John, speak up.
Can you not hear me very well?
Now, just speak up.
All right. So this is from Margie DeShirley, April 21st, 1968. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Hodel, thank you for your very kind and thoughtful letter. The poem was very nice, and I and George's mother and father will always remember it. I am Margaret Faye DeShirley, better known to all as Margie. I am George's wife, not his mother. George also has a 5-year-old son and a 7-week-old daughter. We had hoped and prayed for but he never got to see her. At least he was able to hear about her. I am deeply grieved over George's death and share your grief also. George was an only child, and his parents only have me and the kids to keep them going. We had our funeral on April 11th. It was very nice. We had it military at the gravesite only. We were told that George's funeral was one of the 3 biggest ever in Roswell. Small consolation, but it helps. I really don't know what we would have done if it weren't for family and friends. They helped so much. We got many cards and notes from all over from people we didn't even know. I've been trying to get the names and addresses of the other men killed also, but have received no answer as of yet. Could you help me on this matter? The Navy casualty officer and everyone has been so nice to us. I was in the hospital when notified of George's death because I had had a vein removed from my leg the day before. They let me come home right away though. If there is any way that I can be of any assistance to you, please let me know. About the pictures, I would love one of your sons. All the pictures George took are still with his personal belongings, and as soon as we receive them, I will send you some negatives. If I think your son is in them. I have no doubts or bitterness toward my loss because my husband believed in being over there. Here is part of what he said about being over there. Quote, after my first hitch over there, 1967, I observed the communist methods and cruelties. He went on to say, I feel I am protecting my wife and family by being over here. We are making some progress, but it's slow. These people need our help. So you see, George and Mark did not die in vain. They both, and all of them, died hero's death, as Commander Wright stated. George did not tell us of this detachment or anything that was going on because he didn't want me to worry or get upset. I found out after his death from a sister of mine who had been sworn to secrecy by George. So you can see why I am kind of at a loss, because he never said anything about anything. I hope he got some pictures. Did Mark even mention George? If so, what were his comments? I want so much to find out these things, and I can sort of piece together his last 3 months so that I can answer some whys that are in my heart and mind. And so that I will have answers for Robbie, age 5, and Laura, 7 weeks, when they start asking questions. My Robbie still talks about when Daddy gets home. Even though we told him and we went to the funeral, he is just so young. Heaven help me to have the strength to help them. I have found so much more love and security in God than I have ever had before. I'm not a particularly church-minded person, but I think that will change. I believe God has his reasons and plans. If our baby hadn't been born 2 weeks early, George would have never known about her. Enough of my thoughts. How are you all doing? Was Mark your only child? I guess if you had 50, the hurt and grief couldn't be less. But just remember, they died for a very good reason. I am so proud of all of them. And this is the only thing that helps me going besides 2 kids. I will send a picture of George as soon as possible. The ones we have had are old. I believe George had a mustache, but I am not sure. He mentioned one way back. If yourself wouldn't mind, would you send some negatives and we will have them printed and returned promptly. George wore glasses. I don't know if you remember that. Did he wear glasses? Yeah. Even if you just think it's George, even some of the camp would be nice. Did Mark ever mention the group spirit or things like that? If there are any pictures of film in George's sea bag, whether we got it, I will have it developed and send you some negatives. I just found a little Polaroid that George sent long ago. I have no copies of it, so would you please return it? I have my fingers crossed that George is in some of Mark's pictures. Well, I bothered you long enough. God bless you all, and may he give you the strength to go on day by day. Believe me, I know how you feel. I also lost my mother 3 years ago, and George's mother, Wanda, lost her father on the day of George's funeral. She really had a double dose. How much can a person take? I hope you can read all of this. I will anxiously await your reply. God bless you. Take care of yourselves. I am 21 years old, and George was 24, and he always will be. I have so many beautiful memories, 2 fine kids, and the most wonderful in-laws to help me. We help each other so we can help anybody else. Well, I better go for now, for sure. May God give you the strength for each day. That's all I ask, one day at a time.
Any other thoughts that you have for your brother?
Yeah, just real quick.
Yeah.
So
take your time.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, but that's for the DeShirley, so I think that was important.
If I can, the wife died in 2006 before I started this journey, and the mom passed away, I believe, in 2011 or 2012. So, and George, I've kept in contact with him. Actually, he came to my swearing in as a judge, and he originally was going to be here, but something came up and he couldn't make it. So I want to give it back to you. Okay?
You. So just maybe just 5 minutes and I'll be done.
Sure.
But, so my mom was a very strong Christian woman, very strong. Nobody else in the family really was. And when Mark came over here, the very last he had given his heart to the Lord Jesus Christ. And my dad thought, it's just kind of something to cover himself, you know. And we started getting letters back from Mark over here, and it was real. And he actually wanted to be a missionary, which was amazing. And through Mark's death, my dad came to know the Lord. And there's a long story behind that, but it's amazing. But that was just incredible. Well, last night we're having dinner, and we got done, and we're on a peninsula, if you will. And I usually go right to my house, and this time I went left because I felt like it. Took my bicycle to the end of the road, and it gave me a view of this mountain with a full moon, which is pretty unique. And I just realized, this is incredible. I can see this from here. And then I realized it was Good Friday. And I realized that my mother's sacrifice of her son saved one person, my father. And God's sacrifice of his son saves all of us who choose to believe in him. I just thought, seeing this right now at night, I spent probably an hour and a half there, just taking it all in. And I could have gone home that night and it'd been all worth it to do that. But that was just, it brought me closer to my God, to Mark, to the whole experience. And I'll just close by reading, stating a verse. It's John 15:13. I like the fact it's in John. It says, no greater love has one than this, that one lays down his life for one's friends. So we had 5 men that showed the greatest love they can show right out of the mouth of Jesus Christ. I'm just so privileged to be here. I'm so thankful to Rick for doing this and keeping the pressure on me to get here. So that's all I got.
As we know, the first attack was at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Jim Galati, who is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I have been in contact with his cousin, and who she was very close to him. They obviously could not make it, and she asked me to read a post that she put on one of the veterans online areas that she felt about her cousin. And she asked me if I would read it here. Now, again, Jimmy, which is what he was called, I was in the battle aid station with him and helping the corpsman treat him, and it was obviously he had a very serious wound. When we finally did evacuate the wounded and the dead, he died later that afternoon at a hospital. So he was the first casualty of death at that attack at 2 o'clock in the morning. And let me read to you the cousin. I'm sure it was your mother who brought and wrapped my birthday gift when I was in grade school. But you handed it to me, and ever since it was the dress that Cousin Jimmy gave me. I love you and miss you. You will always be Mr. Wonderful to me, dancing in your tuxedo in the school performance, flashing that big smile, whether on stage or at the dinner table, or bringing us our very first cat. When the dance teacher when the dance teacher asked if you would please be in the show because there were no boys to do it, you did. I must tell you, with my heart knows it's true. Mr. Wonderful, that's you. All gave some gave all. You were due to come home in a few days when you were injured. The helicopter on its way to save you and others crashed, never made it. You were gone, not forgotten. One of your high school buddies from Bishop Newman a few years ago invited your mom to a reunion. I remember dropping Aunt Vera off at the door. The men who escorted her, including the man who invited her, had graying hair and were beautiful and strong in spirit, and reminded me of what you would have looked like if you were here today. It was like that old show, Cold Files. I always think of you as you were 20, and suddenly I saw all the life and years you never had. You are with your father, Uncle Jimmy. Give a hug to my dad, Mom, and brother. God bless you, Jimmy. So, a couple of things before I think it's time to end. If we can, we have a Vietnamese custom here, and we've got a memorial. And we've got a can of beer, we've got some cigarettes, and we have the equivalent of Twinkies with some oranges. And we're going to leave these here and with all these thoughts in honor of you. And the final thing is that we cannot forget the 16 Marines who were killed in action, and they were an integral part of this battle. And they were defending a bridge, and the two howitzer tanks, Marine tanks that were here, were supporting them. And they were, as I said, an integral part of this battle. So, we'll go ahead and stop it, and everybody, thank you so much for being here. Okay?
Thank you.